We are doing a step-by-step video on how to swap out a new style spring clutch basket. With a 2009 to 2010 cushion style basket, this is a must if you have purchased one of these and plan on doing any type of riding. By doing this swap, you are saving yourself time and money when the new style basket fails, potentially costing you $300 to $3,500 in repairs. Here's a small list of tools that you will need to do the swap. You'll need an 8mm socket, 10mm socket, 30mm socket, a flathead screwdriver or small chisel, a hammer, clutch holder, channel locks, torque wrench, and red Loctite. The first thing you'll do is take an 8mm socket, remove all the bolts from the clutch cover. Next, you'll get your 10mm socket and remove the 3 bolts. You'll need to remove these evenly as you take them out so that it does not bind up. Remove the plate, the bolts, and the springs. Next, you'll remove the rubber garments. You can sometimes get them with your fingers, but it's much easier with a screwdriver or a pick. Once you remove that, next you'll remove the pressure plate. And remove the push rod holder. Next you'll get your flathead or chisel, whichever works best. You'll most likely need a smaller, more sharper flathead or chisel to knock back the tabs on the lock washer. Once you get those, you'll get your 30mm socket. I use a small rag just to press up against the basket, so if it spins, it does not cut my fingers. So you'll press against that, get your 30mm, back it off. Once you do that, remove the lock washer and grab the whole inner hub, pull all the clutches out with it. Next, you'll remove the thrust washer and then remove the old style basket. As you can see, the springs and stuff, that is how you'll tell the difference between it and the cushion style basket. Now, I spun the gears on there to make it where the new style basket would not just drop straight in, so I can show you how to set the basket in the correct way. Open up the new basket. As you can see, the difference in the basket. The springs on the bottom one will pop out and get hung in between the cases and your motor, and that's what causes all the damage. Now when you stick the new basket in, you'll be trying to drop it into the crank gear Sometimes, they'll go right in. Sometimes it's hard. You can see, got it to go in, but it's still not all the way in. So you'll still need to turn it to line it up with the oil pump gear. This one's being a little hard, but eventually you'll feel it drop in and you'll see that it's flush. One of the most common things is people put the basket in and don't get it lined up with the oil pump gear and tighten it down and break the oil pump gear, not knowing that they have done this. I pulled it back out to show you that you'll still have to put it in, but this one's giving me a little bit of a headache. And you see that it dropped in to the oil pump gear. Next, you'll get the 0910 thrust washer. As you can see, the difference between the two, make sure you use the 09 to 10 thrust washer. The new style washer will push the gear off of the clutch basket, causing you issues later on. Next, grab your inner hub, slide it back on. You don't have to do it this way, but I like to put the fibers and steels on first. Each steel has a smooth side and a sharp side. I put the sharp side in, same way that comes in the factory. Everybody has their own preference on how they install clutches, but this is how I do it. Now grab your clutch holder, adjust to where it fits just snug on the inner hub. If you have red Loctite, this is the time to put it on. For this video, I do not have red Loctite, as this is just a video on how to do the install. So I'd put the Loctite on the threads and then install the nut. Next, you'll get your 30mm socket along with your torque wrench. .54 foot-pounds is the torque spec for the nut. Make sure not to go too much over, as this might cause misalignment with the lock washer tabs that bend down. Normally, if you tighten it just right, they line up perfectly. Finish installing the fibers and steels. The last three will all be small. That'll go on the basket. The other two will go on the pressure plate when you install it. Next, grab your channel locks and grab your lock washer tab and bend it down. This is the best way of getting these down without damaging the inner hub. Trying to use a flat head screwdriver or chisel to get it bent back down. Make sure to reinstall your push rod apply pressure and just move your clutch arm just to make sure it moves in and out before installing the rest of everything. Make sure your fiber goes on the outside and steel sits on that. You'll reinstall the pressure plate. Next, reinstall the rubber garments. They should only go one way. Next, reinstall all 3 springs, as well as the plate and 3 bolts. Make sure when tightening the 3 bolts that you tighten them evenly all the way down, same as when you took them off, so that the plate goes down flat and doesn't get in a bind. We was careful when removing the clutch cover and did not rip the gasket. So we are not replacing the gasket. When you install the bolts, you'll start with the long one all the way down to the short ones. Use your 8mm socket to tighten all these down. Probably don't recommend using an impact to tighten all your bolts. Now there is other options if you do not want to use the slipper style clutch that is in the motor still. You can always swap over to a conventional style clutch, which is a 6-spring setup. There's different options out there. This one is the OEM 6-spring pressure plate. There's Henson and other options out there. That's the part number. You'll also need the inner hub as well for the 6-spring setup. As you can see, it's much different than the slipper style. You'll also need the bolts for bolting down the pressure plate to the inner hub. There's 6 of those. Don't forget, you have to swap out the new style thrust washer with the old style 2009-2010 thrust washer for all this to work. This is the clutch kit you'll need as well for making the swap to the conventional clutch setup. In this kit comes with all 6 springs you'll need. Comes with all new fibers and steels. Get rid of the small fiber, which lets you take out the so-called chatter ring, is what I call it. Comes with a brand new OEM, cover gasket. We sell all of this as a kit. This is everything you'll need to make the swap to a conventional setup as well. Pressure plate, inner hub, clutch kit, bolts, everything you'll need. The slipper clutch is not a bad clutch, but I prefer the conventional clutch over the slipper style clutch.